Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review. I'm here today to talk to you about the Apple Plus Ghostwriter show, season 1, 2, 3, I guess you could say. So this came out in 2019, and the show is a revival of the classic PBS Ghostwriter show. Now, I've talked about this when I first started my channel, to much of my dismay. So go watch that video. You can find it by going to my page, clicking the video tab, and then going in that search engine, but not the actual YouTube search engine. And so, needless to say, when I first heard they was making a Ghostwriter reboot, I was ecstatic. Until I saw the trailer and I asked myself, what the heck is this? Because that's not the Ghostwriter I remember. Now, I went into full detail about the old Ghostwriter show and the other reboot version, and then this one. And even though this is not my Ghostwriter, and it pains me to see how much it changed, because like the original Ghostwriter, in my opinion, is just so cool and interesting. And clearly this is made for a different audience, but they use the name Ghostwriter and elements from it to make older viewers try to get invested, so they get their younger kids to get invested, and also just to get younger kids invested. And even though it's not my Ghostwriter, and it particularly does not make me happy and everything, and it pains my heart, I will say this: it's a pretty cool show. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's neat how all these characters and books come alive, and they have to solve a mystery and everything. Like, what kid wouldn't love that, or what regular person wouldn't love that? So it is a nice family film. It's something, or not film, but show. And it's something that like anybody can watch. It don't matter your age, and especially young people. Young people will love this show. It's not violent, it's pretty cool, and they do tackle real life issues to add some drama to it. So it's a nice little teaching lesson and stuff. Now, the first two seasons deals with a cast of characters. And then all of a sudden, I assumed that like the show had ended because there was no word of it. The you-know-what virus was rampant in the world. So I figured that the show had just got, that's why I assumed it just got canceled. It has over 40 something nominations. It won one award. So I assumed it was canceled, and then all of a sudden a third season popped up. And with the third season popping up, it has a brand new cast. There's no explanation as to why the first season cast is gone. It could just probably be because they started to get a bit older and stuff. They was getting taller, and they probably did that whole odd squad, like just add magic type thing where it's like, okay, you're getting older, well, let's reboot this thing and get a brand new cast of young people, since this is supposed to be a show for that of young people, because those other two shows I mentioned did the exact same thing. And because I remember I was watching something called Ruby and the Well, and there was a girl in 4 episodes. I'm all like, hey, that looks like the girl from like the show named Donna. And it is her, and she's a lot taller now, and she's getting older. So that's probably the best conclusion as to why they recast. However, in the third season, it's very quickly explained what happened to the first season cast. It just says that now, instead of like, I don't know what grade they was in before. I don't know if they was in elementary or middle school, but now they're in high school. And they got a few years before college. But it's weird because, they try to tie in the first two seasons to that, the third, by having Ruben's mom in the bookstore. And just that quick little scene. But after that, the third season takes a new setting, in that of a university. The third season that I skimmed through because I just couldn't take it. Because even though it's weird, because like I said before, the first two seasons are enjoyable. You will just enjoy yourself, and just a nice little thing you can watch. Even though it is a bit gooberish at times in the first two seasons, The third season, it takes a bit more of a mature approach, kind of. But the problem is, everything is rushed. There's a brand new ghost, there's a brand new mystery, brand new characters, and the CGI is terrible in the third season. And plus, because it's not really explained too well what happened to the first season's cast, it just feels kind of odd, you know what I'm saying? And then they started adding new elements like this mermaid element and stuff like that. And it's just kind of like, I just skimmed through it. I just skimmed through the first episode, skimmed to the last, and that's just about it that I could take up the third. Nothing against the new cast and everything. It's just, you can clearly tell when you watch the third season, they rushed the mess out of that show. And so, like, what Ghostwriter, the 2019 series, is all about on Apple Plus, the first two seasons deal with a group of kids that come together because of that of a ghost. Curtis and Donna are brother and sister. Curtis is more the athletic, grumpy type, and Donna's the youngest of the entire group and more of like, the adorable type. When it comes to hiding Ghostwriter's secrets, she's really good at lying like that. She's really quick and thinking on her feet. And she's more of like the kind, sweet-hearted, like gooberish person. And then you have Ruben, who is the new kid in town, who has no friends and stuff like that. And his grandmother recently just died, and his grandfather and mother, they own that of a bookstore. And then you have Siobhan, who's this overachiever, very intelligent girl. And so I've already talked about the first episode in this, go watch that. But basically they come together when a ghost mysteriously spills over a drink and writes the word hello in it. Now this version of Ghostwriter is completely different than the original one from the PBS show. The PBS one was intended to be a black slave who escaped and taught little kids how to read. And he would communicate with a group of teenagers in the modern day by writing to them, and they would constantly write back to him, and then they would solve real life mysteries like crime mysteries and stuff. They were junior detectives, and he had no idea who he was or remember his identity and stuff. And so the show was going to explain that, but they never did. But the creator explained it many years later. This new version of Ghostwriter it looks different. It's just a ball of light without the little eyebrow things, and it's able to move stuff around like objects, and it can hear people when they talk to them. The old Ghostwriter couldn't do that. You could talk to Ghostwriter, but Ghostwriter could never hear you, only read your words. But this Ghostwriter can hear you. And this Ghostwriter brings characters alive in a book at random. But there's a reason why this Ghostwriter picked these group of kids, and the reason why it picks these certain books and brings certain characters to life. And so it needs them to solve the biggest mystery of all, which is later revealed in the finale of season 2. And so these kids are chosen, but they have no idea why they're chosen. Ruben assumes this ghost is that of his grandmother. And so this Ghostwriter is female, but it is not his grandmother. And so when the characters are brought life, the book, like I said before, the CGI is really good, really decent. And so like the mysteries that are solved in each episode is stuff that just happening around town that Ghostwriter wants to solve. Like when this cat goes missing and upsets this one person, Ghostwriter brings out Mowgli from the Jungle Book because Mowgli can talk to animals, and because of that, the kids can now talk to animals. And so they talk to their dog, and he's really grumpy and upset because they never played with him and stuff, and because the family is separated. Each episode deals with something personal going on in the kid's life, and then whatever's going around in town that they have to solve. And they kind of intertwine. So I like that dynamic. The A and B plot are smushed together, and the kids learn a nice, valuable life lesson. And so the kids, like Curtis and Donna, their parents are separated, and it really upsets them. And so, you get to hear them talk about that throughout certain episodes, and the dog is upset because of that, and the kids have to explain to the dog, why their parents like separated and stuff like that, because the dog does not understand. And that's a nice little lesson that this nice little woe is me's that they have to go through and stuff. And like I said before, CGI is just like great when it does stuff like that. And it makes the animals talk and move, and like the other characters, and like, Alice in Wonderland was the first people to come out the book. And so like with the season 1 finale with Frankenstein, that was a really cool episode. Like Frankenstein and Frankenstein Monster came out. And Frankenstein Monster is, he's upset because Frankenstein abandoned him when he made him. One cool thing that it taught that the monster name is not Frankenstein. People always assume that, but it is not. Frankenstein is the doctor, and Frankenstein's monster is the monster. And he's upset, and he's lonely, and he feels abandoned, and that ties into what's going on with the kids. And it teaches you have to take responsibility of the faults that you make. A nice life lesson that's taught in that episode is Curtis has a learning disability that Siobhan found out about in the previous episode. This upsets him and everything, and then when he finds out he has dyslexia, Ruben tells him, "No, my mom has that. It's nothing to be ashamed about. Tons of people have it. It's basically where words are backwards to you and stuff." That was something they taught back in Power Rangers. That's how I remember that. And I think in season 3, when Rocky helped this kid who had it, it's because, you end up making huge mistakes and stuff because everything is backwards to you. And so, there are ways to help with that and stuff. So that was a cool life lesson to teach. And about the whole being responsible stuff is because like Frankenstein was not responsible with his monster. And so like, the kids, they all like, okay, well, in the book, Frankenstein never made the second monster. But, in the movies, they made Bride of Frankenstein. So he creates another one, but doesn't want to bring it to life. And so the two boys, they want to bring it to life, but Siobhan doesn't. So she takes the heart away, thinking it won't reanimate. But it does. It's just soulless and heartless now. So it goes on a rampage, destroying everything in town. And so Frankenstein finally comes to grip with the mistake he made with the monster. They go back in the book, and then like, they have to talk it out with the other monster, the female one, but then Donna, who's always quick thinking, which is weird because Siobhan should be the quick thinking one since she's the smart one, but Donna normally is because she's the idea person. And she comes up with the idea, okay, well, since Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, was never in the book, we're gonna have to write the pages and stuff. And it works. And then the female monster goes inside and they create their own little thing. This is something that's supposed to tie into that of season 2, and something the reason why Ghostwriter brought the Frankenstein monster to life. See, it turns out that Ghostwriter is indeed a woman, and she used to write books. Her name is Sarah Weaver, I think, but she went through like the alias of Mason Briggs. She had to use a guy's name to sell her books because back in those days, women were not allowed to do stuff like that. And so she was literally a ghost writer and stuff. And so the kids learn that the big, huge mystery they have to solve is that of the manuscript. Something that she wrote but never got to publish because she never finished. And so they have to go looking for it. There's an episode where the kids literally travel through time in a weird, bizarre episode, doing like some magic compass thing. Now, in the original Ghostwriter himself traveled through time through the words, and only he traveled, and they communicated back and forth with that of like people from the past. But in this one, they actually send the kids through time, and then in the finale, they actually send the kids in the unwritten manuscript. It's something she wrote about a stolen kobold mask, and she never got to finish it. So the kids decide, since they keep going in and out the book to see what's been going on, they're going to finish the book. And then they realize something. They don't know how to write. But then they also realize that, hey, all the books that Ghostwriter have been bringing to life has certain elements in it to teach you how to write like characters and plot development and backstory. So they realized all the books that were being brought to life was to teach them how to write a book. So they finish the manuscript, they get enough money, they sell the manuscript, they make enough money to keep the library, and the day is saved, and the female ghostwriter goes away in her red shimmering ball of light. Then we get to that of the third season. Before I get into season 3, let me get into more of season 1 and 2. So there are slight similarities to that of the original Ghostwriter. One, the shape of Ghostwriter, that little ball of light. However, it's missing the little eyebrow things at the top. It's more CGI and illuminating and ghost-like. I like that. I like that a lot. The characters are different than the original ones, but there are some slight similarities. Like Donna, she has a clue book, which is similar to the books that the original Ghostwriter team used to have and write down all their clues and stuff. Hers is slightly different. She writes down everything she knows about Ghostwriter, also drawing in little kitty illustrations and stuff like that. We have Ruben, who is very similar to that of Jamal, Alex, and Gabrielle. See, the main setting of the show is the bookstore, similar to that of the bodega that Alex and Gabrielle parents used to own. Also, Ruben spends a lot of time with his grandfather, and Jamal spent a lot of time with his grandmother, and both have like a grandparent that is deceased. And so that's kind of neat that they have those little tie-ins. Also, Ruben is the new kid, similar to that of Rob and stuff like that. And so I like those little teeny tiny similarities. Also with Curtis, he's kind of like Alex. Likes to play basketball and is very grumpy and doesn't really get along that well with his sister. That's the same way Alex and Gabby were. And so pretty much that ends all of the similarities, really. Because I can't really think of, like, I don't know who Siobhan would be similar to. Maybe Tina, probably. I don't know, maybe. Like, I just don't know. Like, it's kind of hard because it's hard to figure out. But like, yeah, so those kind of like little similarities, like, here and there. And so, like, now with the third season, also the reason why Sarah picked the kids is because they resemble kids that she like saw like back in the day and wrote stories on. And so since she wrote like a story based on like these group of kids that matched their description, she just felt more in like, I don't know, close to them, I guess you could say. And that's why she chose them and brought them together as friends. So that's kind of a neat thing because, like, with the old Ghostwriter, he brought those group of kids together as friends as well. Everything about the third season feels rushed. Right down to the CGI. The lion in the first episode is terrible. The lion looked like it came out of a little kiddie movie and stuff. It's just terrible CGI. And that's not the only terrible CGI. So when it comes to the characters and them getting to like, I guess the group forming and stuff like that, see, it's rushed as well. See, in the first season, the only people who knew each other was that of Curtis and Donna, brother and sister. But also Ruben and Siobhan knew each other, but they was kind of distant. And so we get slight backstories into all the characters before we meet them, before they come together. And Ghostwriter brings them together in a very weird but ominous type way. In the third season, however, it's just they're in the bookstore, the same bookstore that Ruben's mother and grandfather owns, and Ghostwriter's just illuminating books, and then they see the books illuminating, and then they come together that way. No backstory, no nothing. And it's just completely and utterly rushed. Ghostwriter has a new appearance. He's now blue because this one is now male, named Oliver and everything. And the whole plot of this season is they're looking for an old Egyptian, like, thing called I think it's called the elegant, like, peasant or something like that. I don't know. It's something that's supposed to, like, it's kind of like a story on like a parchment. It's some ancient Egypt, and it's supposed to like show justice and equality in one person's personal life and stuff like that. And but with the third season, like I said, I skimmed it, so I really don't know much about it. I tried to watch the first episode, but I just couldn't get through it. It was just kind of like, I don't know, it was just annoying that the original cast wasn't there and how they was written off and really wasn't like explained. It was like going through the whole like Odd Squad and that of the Just Add Magic when they rebooted and brought in a new cast. Only difference is those characters are more likable from the beginning. With these characters, because they didn't have no proper introduction and they were just thrown together very, very quickly, they just seem boring and kind of stale and everything. The only real backstory I have with one is that she's a magician trying to do tricks, not very good. And then the other girl is kind of like, her mother is the president of like the university. And with the new cast is Shamir, is Charlie, and what's the Nina. And so like with them, I just wasn't really all that invested. I wasn't invested in the story. They had a retelling of The Wizard of Oz with like a brand new retelling and stuff. And so the characters were kind of interesting. The Tin Woman instead of Tin Man was very sassy and cracked me up. And Randall Park, he voiced the lion and everything, so that was cool. But other than that, one thing I've noticed about the third season, in the very first episode, when they go to the library, the library of the university, and they're trying to figure out what's what, and ghostwriters like illuminating names and everything in the library, the Tin Man's all like, oh, these like rooms in like the school have weird names. They're named after people. And Nina's all like, yeah, like old white men and everything. I'm just kind of like, I know it's modern day and they do that a lot. But it just felt so out of place and almost like an attack. Like, I know you want to be self-aware, and that is true. When it comes to the university, they're all named after like important like white people from back in the day. But the way she said it in her delivery, it just felt like that modern day female like attack stuff, Which the first two seasons they dealt with touchy subjects, but they had a better flow of it. Like they dealt with misogyny, with the woman not being able to publish her own books and had to use like a male name. They did that perfectly. It was a story about like this one detective, and he's white, and there's this cab driver who's black, but the black dude's actually the one solving all the crimes, but the white dude took the credit for it, and they explained, oh, the reason why that because of my race, and they just explained it so much better because it was back in the 1950s and stuff. And they had a better flow of like getting on touchy subjects like that, whereas the new one's just kind of like, it's just that modern day female attack and stuff like that. And it's just like they need a better flow than just coming out like in an angry kind of way, you know what I'm saying? And so everything about the third season, from what I just saw, just seemed rushed. And then when I tried to watch the episode in the middle, and it dealt with some kind of mermaid who comes out of water and gives Charlie like visions and stuff like that. I don't even know if she comes from an actual book, but she's in a couple of episodes. And I'm just like, what the world? Maybe I should watch, but I just can't bring myself to watch the third season. It probably has a really good story. I just can't bring myself to it because it just feels more cheesier than the first two seasons. Like, I'm not like a huge fan of this show. I think it's neat and I think it's interesting and there's some cool elements, but it's not like I'm like a huge fan like Just Add Magic or Odd Squad. It's just, the first two seasons are passable. Like, they're watchable and everything. You can like watch it like whatever. But the third season, I'm just like, what the world are they doing? And it's kind of weird because now there's like a new cast. Nothing against the new cast. It's just different. And then so like, they saved the day at the end of season 3. And then ghostwriter just and his ball of blue light just floats off into the sky and leaves, similar to that of the first Ghost Rider in the second season. And I'm just like, oh, okay, is the third season's cast mystery over just like that? And I'm just kind of like, well, what was the point in making the third season if you're just gonna bring in a new cast and get rid of it? It's similar to what Just Add Magic did in this last season when they did the spin-off thing. They got rid of the original cast because they started to get older, and then they brought in a brand new younger cast, and then that was the end of that show after just that one cast. And the same thing with Odd Squad. They brought in a new cast for the second season, replaced the entire first season. Then in the third season, they replaced the entire second season cast with a brand new cast, and then it ended. And it's just kind of like, so I guess if they get a season 4, it's going to be a brand new Ghost Rider and a brand new cast of characters and a brand new mystery and everything. And it's just kind of like, that's just kind of weird that Ghost all of a sudden in this universe can just make things come alive in books, and it's just kind of weird. Like, okay, one Ghost did it. Okay, that's fine. But now the second Ghost can do the exact same thing and time travel and make people go inside books and make characters in books come out. Like, that's just too similar. Instead, the third season should have had like characters from like a TV show come out or something like that. But then there'll be no reason to call it Ghost Rider. And so, like, I don't know. It's just, like I said before, I prefer the original one from PBS. Kids will love this. Like, trust me, they will love this show. But like, I don't know. For me, I just prefer the OG one. Alrighty. Well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.